He was fired from his only job. He had no money. He was stealing bread from hotel trays to eat. That night, lying in a cheap pensione with a fever and no money for food, he had a nightmare about a metal skeleton crawling out of fire toward a woman. He sketched it on the hotel stationery when he woke up. That sketch became the ending of the film. The Terminator, 1984. Budget, $6.4 million. Box office, $78 million. The film that launched James Cameron and made Arnold Schwarzenegger a star. 16 facts. One is about what Cameron said when Schwarzenegger tried to change the most famous line in the film. Stay for the last one. It ends on the same road where it began. Fact 1. Cameron had been hired to direct Piranha 2, The Spawning, a sequel about flying piranhas, backed by an Italian producer who fired him after 4 days and locked him out of his own footage. He flew to Rome anyway to fight for the edit. The producer had already taken over. Cameron broke into the cutting room after hours and recut the film the way he wanted it. Then he was broke, feverish, and completely alone in a city where he couldn't speak the language. He was 27, broke, feverish, no agent who believed in him, no studio that wanted him. That is where the idea for one of the most successful franchises in cinema history came from. Fact 2. The film got its financing because Lance Henriksen walked into a producer's office in full Terminator costume. The secretary nearly fainted. Every major studio had said no. Henriksen arrived at Hemdale Films with gold foil over his teeth, a cut on his forehead, kicked the door open, sat in silence, and refused to speak. Executive John Daly agreed to fund the film. That was not a publicity stunt. That was the entire pitch, and it worked when every formal meeting had failed. Fact 3. Cameron sold the screenplay for $1 to producer Gail Ann Hurd, who was also his partner at the time. The condition written into the contract, only Cameron could direct any production of it. The dollar contract was the only thing between him and being replaced. He knew that. He had written it specifically for that reason. He never forgot it. Fact 4. His agent told him it was the worst idea he had ever heard. Cameron fired him that day, then sat down and started writing the screenplay with Bill Wisher over the phone. The script was written over the phone. Cameron in Pomona, Wisher elsewhere, trading scenes back and forth like men who knew they were running out of time. His fired agent later watched the film open at number 1. Fact 5. In that state, he dreamed of a metal skeleton crawling out of fire toward a woman. He sketched it on hotel stationery when he woke. Cameron in 2021. The first sketch showed a metal skeleton cut in half at the waist, crawling over a tile floor, using a large kitchen knife to pull itself forward. In a second drawing, the character threatens a crawling woman. Minus the kitchen knife, these images became the finale of The Terminator almost exactly. The ending of the film was the first idea. The time travel, the future war, the love story, everything else was built around that single image from a feverish night in Rome. Fact 6. O.J. Simpson was the studio's first and most enthusiastic choice for The Terminator. Cameron refused. Simpson, he said, came across as too likable to convince anyone he could kill without hesitation. Also rejected: Mel Gibson, Sylvester Stallone, Tom Selleck. Cameron's own instinct was Lance Henriksen, lean, unremarkable, someone whose presence wouldn't announce danger from across a room. The Terminator was originally conceived as a machine that could disappear into a crowd. Then Schwarzenegger started talking at lunch, and the concept changed entirely. Fact 7. Cameron went to that lunch planning to manufacture a conflict and use it as an excuse to drop Schwarzenegger. Instead, Schwarzenegger spent the meal explaining, without being asked, exactly how the Terminator should move, think, and operate. He had opinions on everything: the walk, the silences, the way a machine would assess a room. Cameron stopped arguing and started listening. By the end of the meal, the film had its villain. Fact 8. While shooting Conan the Destroyer, Schwarzenegger described The Terminator to friends as some shit movie he had coming up. Nobody on set thought the film would work. Not the cast, not the crew, not the star who described it as a shit movie. They were all wrong. A fever dream, a dollar contract, a costume used as a pitch. O.J. Simpson turned down. A fight planned that became a friendship. Up to here, how the film got made. From here, how it almost didn't. Fact 9. Schwarzenegger asked to say, "I will be back," instead of, "I'll be back." A machine wouldn't use contractions. Cameron. "Don't tell me how to write, I don't tell you how to act." Cameron promised 10 takes and the best one would be used. The take in the film is the first one. The line is in every list of the most recognizable sentences in cinema history. It is also, technically, the version both men agreed not to use. Fact 10. The crew printed t-shirts that read, "You don't scare me, I work for James Cameron." They were not giving him a compliment. He was 29, unknown, on a $6.4 million film starring a man paid $1 million. Any serious mistake and the studio would replace him. On the third day, he had a fever of 103 and shot a long tracking sequence through a department store, what he later described as freaking delirium. The t-shirts were not entirely a joke. Fact 11. Cameron filmed multiple scenes guerrilla style without permits, waking Schwarzenegger at 3 a.m. in full costume for a reshoot. The last scene of the film was shot illegally on a highway outside Los Angeles. When a patrol officer appeared, producer Heard told him they were a UCLA student project. He let them finish. The final image of the Terminator exists because a producer lied convincingly to a policeman at dawn in the California desert. Fact 12. The 9-month delay caused by Schwarzenegger's Conan commitment gave Cameron time to storyboard almost the entire film and to write the screenplay for Rambo: First Blood Part 2. Two of the defining action films of the 1980s were written in the same stretch, by the same man, in the same financial desperation. When The Terminator opened, Cameron had already written a franchise he would never direct. Fact 13. Deborah Winger and Kathleen Turner were both considered for Sarah Connor. Both turned it down. They found the material uninteresting. Linda Hamilton inherited the role and played it across 35 years. The character, passed over by two established actresses, became one of the most iconic women in science fiction history. Hamilton was injured playing with her dog shortly before filming began. She shot the film anyway. Fact 14. Schwarzenegger's $1 million salary was 1/6 of the entire budget. Cameron knew the studio had a replacement director waiting if he stumbled. He was 29, unknown, and had never finished a film. The conditions for being fired were already in place before shooting began. He made every day, every shot, every tracking sequence. If the studio wanted an excuse to pull him, Cameron refused to hand them one. He never did. Fact 15. Schwarzenegger's agent told him playing a villain would damage the career he had built on Conan. Schwarzenegger fired him over it, then thought better of it and rehired him 24 hours later. The film opened October 26, 1984. Number 1 for 2 consecutive weeks. The agent's views on villains are not documented after that. Fact 16. When Cameron was fired from Piranha 2, his car was repossessed while he was in Rome. He borrowed his father's car to drive back across the country. He dictated the Terminator story into a cassette recorder through the night. His own words: "Finding my car had been repossessed. I borrowed a clunker from my father. I dictated the story of the Terminator into a cassette recorder as I drove through the night. No studio, no agent, no car. A borrowed vehicle, a cassette, and a story about something that cannot be stopped. Titanic, Avatar, aliens. All of it began on that road." Bonus fact: James Cameron was 27 when the idea came to him. He was 29 when he made the film. He had a fever both times. The difference was that the second time, he had something to prove, and a borrowed car and a cassette recorder and a story nobody else believed in. I'll be back.